Morning, everyone. It is Thursday, November 17th, which of course is the third Thursday in November, meaning it's one more Thursday until Thanksgiving, which is exciting for me. My wife Erin just got back from a Whole Foods shopping trip to get the basic, our little economy size Thanksgiving staples, um, because I'm leaving for a trip for 2 weeks tomorrow. No, Saturday. So we will do our Thanksgiving tomorrow. It should be a nice time. Pretty pumped about the release of Disenchanted, the movie Disenchanted, which my daughter's into. Trying to add Doug here. There he is. Oh, he's disappeared again. It's another disappearing. So on the restream, I can see you like halfway off the screen hiding. But on Instagram, you're totally hidden. So I wasn't fooled that time. Not like yesterday. I was also kind of prepared for it, given yesterday.
Given yesterday, yeah, I did do the same joke 2 days in a row.
You did, but someone called it out on Instagram. They liked it in the Plant-Based Morning Show account.
I'm trying to be creative when I come in with high energy. You know,
I think we're constantly improving.
You're trying to fill some space there, and you're doing a great job with it. But you know, it's good for me to just like come in with a base.
It is. I'm trying to not say I'm gonna bring Doug in here, and then because after that, then I'm just like waiting, and it's a pregnant pause. So now I don't say that anymore. Well, I might have said it today, but trying not to. Trying to get better every day. All right. Hello to some people. Dale Stevens is here. Morgan is here. Morgan is whose question we answered last week about the early morning Disney race.
Yes.
And then she also she DM'd us, which is very nice. And actually, she said, if you guys have products to promote, you should totally do it on the show. I really like hearing about holiday bundles and stuff like that. So we're not going to do that. We actually don't have the No Meat Athlete bundle this year. It's been a long-standing tradition, but we broke it last year. We're doing some compliment stuff, which of course is who presents this show, Compliment, our supplement company. But nothing big right now. I mean, we'll tell you about the deals as they come about.
Yeah, once that stuff happens, we'll be sure to let you know, because there are some big exciting things happening. But I'll just leave it at that.
There will be, yes. Hello, Mr. Jeffrey. And we should mention, by the way, that for those who are new, because that Plant-Based Morning Show account has grown a lot in the past 2 days. I think it's like tripled, which is awesome. So please keep doing that. Keep interacting. It all tells the gram that you like these shows and you like that account and all that stuff. But anyway, we do the show 11 a.m. every weekday, Eastern time. It's also a podcast, though. So if you can't always make the lives, just get the podcast at Apple or Spotify or Google or Stitcher, any of those. It's called the Plant-Based Morning Show, and you can download all the past episodes. You can be like some of these nerds here who listen to every single one. You can go back in time and you could catch up in like 3 days if you're like a true Plant-Based Morning Show junkie, like a handful of people here. I'm using nerds in a nice way, not a bad way.
Yeah, the PBJs, Team PBJ.
The PBJs. We're not calling them the Plant House Army anymore. Because
the plant-based junkies.
Connotations. There we go. That's another good one. Yeah, Jody, I meant nerds in a nice way. I'm a nerd for coffee. I'm a nerd for wine. I'm a nerd for, I don't know, Burger King vegan items. So it's a nice term. I don't mean it in a bad
way. So I got my haircut yesterday. Thanks for noticing.
Very nice. And I like it. I did not notice, but very nice. I need one of those.
And I was talking to my hairdresser, and I mentioned the show, and it was maybe the third conversation in, I don't know, the last week or two that the show has come up, and people just cannot believe we're doing this every day for more than a half an hour, and that people come live every day for more than half an hour.
Yeah, you're right. We've gradually fallen into it, and it doesn't seem so weird. But when we first thought of it, the idea of doing something for almost an hour every day, and it's not quite an hour, but it's been 45 minutes, 50 minutes. You would think we would just run out of things to talk about. But we didn't plan to do this. We thought it would be 15 to 30 minutes, and then we realized that there's plenty of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So it's easy. And honestly, it's now become like it's really not much effort. Whereas the first 2 times I went live on Instagram, or first 10 times, it was just a panic. It was like, what's going to happen? There's going to be technical issues,
right?
It's going to be embarrassing. I'm not going to have anything to say. I'm going to stumble, all that. But you just get used to it. So yeah, I'm glad we're in this rhythm.
I am too. It's fun, and I love that people show up. And Matt and I were talking about this yesterday. What I love more than anything is when you're not commenting to us, which I do love it when you comment to us, but when you guys are talking to each other, when that PBJ is just when the PBJs are just having a whole show within a show, and we're not even involved in it. I think that's awesome. So keep that up. Or the
Plant-based Lucy thinks it should be called the plant-powered posse, the Triple P.
The Triple P? I like that too.
PBJ. I like PBJ because it just sounds familiar. It sounds like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll see what
PBJ was one of our first recommendations.
It was
I can't
early.
remember who it was.
I think someone DM'd it to us. I think maybe, but anyway, it's a good one. So we'll see. We'll see what sticks. Guess how many hours I spend each morning preparing for the show, Doug? I mean, with No Athlete Radio, we made it into a joke how little we prepare for episodes. Just because there were a lot of serious podcasts that we were, I guess, competing with, who like fact checked and do all these things and then send it off to producers, and we just did none of that, and we just did a little show.
Well,
what do you think?
I think during the beginning, you spent a pretty good amount of time doing it. Now I happened to, because I hopped on 15 minutes before we went live to read the articles and look at the show notes and saw that you're still making notes. So my guess is that it's probably
I don't think I was making notes.
less than an hour.
No, well, that's why I want to tell you. It's a long time. People, really? So the Whole Health Experience is guessing half an hour. Dale Stevens says 0. I can't believe this would reflect 0 preparation. This show that we do.
Come on, Dale.
No, I bet on average I spend 2 hours every morning before the show preparing for things. It's not every day. Certainly there are some days when, like tomorrow's Thanksgiving episode, which is going to be, by the way, it's already planned because I've been pulling out Thanksgiving articles as I find them and I put them into the Friday slot. So that one won't take much time, but I will have to read them and be ready to talk about them. But usually between like 7 and 9 or 7:30 and 9:30, I'm just scanning, finding things, reading things, and picking them there. So I actually do put a lot of time into this, more than probably triple the time that we were on here.
Matt, thank you for that. Thank you very much for that. What's been cool, and I think that other people, our regulars here, are feeling the same way because they send us articles. Is like all throughout the day, I think about the show. Like it's just kind of in the back of the mind. So if I see a headline or something like that, I'm like, oh, I should. There would maybe have piqued my interest before, but I wouldn't have clicked or I wouldn't have spent much time on it. Now I'm taking that extra step because I'm like, man, it could be really good for the show. Could be some good content. Or if I'm in the grocery store, I'm always diverting to that plant-based meat aisle to make sure that I know what's going on. And
gotta check. And we got the account now, the Instagram account. So now we can share the pictures from those moments, which is even more work, but good.
No, so it's been really cool how this how it's become a much bigger thing than just showing up like we were doing with No Athlete Radio to actually prepping it. So a little insider baseball here. Matt picks all the articles for the most part, unless I send him something, and I show up. I dedicate.
Even when I send something, it doesn't often make it in. Maybe 1 out of 10 gets it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It goes on this list that keeps getting longer and longer, and my articles just keep getting pushed down further and further. But I usually hop on about a half an hour before the show and start reading through all the articles to make sure I have time. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to do that today, but I did read through all the articles, so that's good.
Yeah, and I think as long as one of us has done them, then it's sort of okay if the other person, you get sort of a raw reaction or just unfiltered, and I like that. In the end of it, getting it out in podcast form actually only takes me probably 20 minutes now. Very much streamlined that process, maybe even less than that some days. So that's good.
Mr. Jeffrey says, you're the plant-based anchor. I'm the plant-based reporter on the ground.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Steven's our man on the ground. Doug's.
Oh yeah,
you're like our color commentary.
Steven's our European correspondent.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the color
commentary. You're the environmental correspondent too.
Yeah,
I think worst speaking guy ever is our man on the ground.
There you go. He's the man of the people for sure.
All right. So one of the reasons I've been able to prepare more for these things is that in the past few weeks I've started sleeping way, way better, and like a normal person, and it's amazing every time I wake up. So this morning I was able to get up at 6 with my daughter after having I'm finding myself naturally waking up around 5:15, and I kind of just late because I think I'm so used to getting like truly 5 good hours of sleep, and now when I can get 7 in a row, I wake up at 5:15 and I'm like ready to get up because my body's just I think done with sleeping. For now, I hope I can actually adjust to be getting more. But I'm just trying to figure out what is going on, because every now and then this happens that in my life is at a particularly non-stressful time or something, and I'm able to get some good sleeps. Even though stress is not usually what I think is the reason why I don't. But right now it doesn't feel like that. There's nothing exceptional. It's just that I'm sleeping way better, And so I'm trying to figure out why. The obvious one for me, the first thing I keep thinking of is the not drinking alcohol during the week, or maybe sometimes on Thursday night I'll have a glass of wine or two. But I used to have like a beer every night reliably, or two glasses of wine reliably. Maybe sometimes one, sometimes three. You open a bottle, you pour some, and
Yeah.
who knows what it is. But never more than
I have
three.
that same problem with Jack. So I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Just kidding.
I mean, people do, I think.
No, I know. It was a bad joke. I shouldn't have said it.
Anyway, so that's the big one, and I just don't know for sure if that's it. It seems it would be kind of embarrassing for all that I've complained about sleep if it was because I was drinking alcohol at night. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I've been hearing you talk about this for years.
yeah, right. That's why it would like I said, would be humiliating if I just had never noticed that, or if worse, I couldn't bring myself to stop that habit because I just wanted to have a beer or wine too much. More it's noticing. So I wish I had like and I think we'll have this like one day. I wish I had like the Google Glass thing or cameras in my house where and AI that just runs through it all. So I could just say, tell me the days I slept more than 7 hours and tell me what I did the night before. And if I had a lot of data, it could tell me there was no drinking the night before. So that would be nice. We don't have that. And therefore I'm left in the dark. I've also
have you noticed on the weekends if like when you do have a drink, is it changing or no?
No, I wondered that as well. That's a good question. And I will need to pay attention to that. The problem is the weekends I'm in hotels and things very often recently. So I don't have a good, clear data on that, but I will definitely be paying attention to that. Even so, though, I still wonder, is it possible that like just the habit, the daily, all the time habit would be what gets your body into the habit of not sleeping? So now you have a couple drinks on a weekend, maybe I can still get good sleep. I don't really know. We'll see what happens. But I'm thrilled with that. And I just can't imagine if it was like a whole year that I slept like this instead of a couple weeks, which is what it is. I feel like my whole life would be transformed. I would just be like happier and everything better. So I'm super excited. The other variable I will add is I've been taking CBD oil before bedtime, which I had experimented with before during my sleep days when I was not getting any deep sleep. And I found that it was not working. I didn't notice anything special about it. But I just happened to start doing it. And unfortunately now conflating variable. I don't know what's the real answer here. But I'm not going to bring that to Germany because I'm worried about getting arrested or something. So let's see. So I will eliminate that one at least. Of course, I'll probably drink real beer in Germany too.
Yeah. And you'll be in a different place, different environment,
right?
Different time of day, jet lag. Everything's gonna get messed up. But Matt, I'm really excited to hear that. I know this has been quite the journey for you. So of course it's not over yet, but
right,
a few good nights of sleep can go a long way. But I think the third variable that you're not really mentioning here is the life satisfaction you're getting from a daily talk show.
It is possible.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, hang out with me. I mean, maybe the fourth variable is just me. Like we haven't talked this much in years.
True. I haven't talked to anybody this much in years. So that's another maybe just social interaction period is proving now to be good, which I'd known was true, but now I see it in my own life. Hello to Donna on Facebook. Good to see you. And let's see. Anyone? Juliana's here, our designer. Thank you, Juliana, for designing things.
Jody Shuck, who was the inventor of the PBJ idea, also says that I've been taking CBD for years, but I'm starting to wonder if it really does anything. As you know, we've talked about it on the podcast because we've had CBD sponsors and stuff. I often go through periods of taking CBD before bed, and it always helps. It's usually when I'm in particularly stressful moments. It really does seem to maybe all in my head, but it for whatever reason I feel better and more relaxed by it. But I'm not in a period of doing that now. So
I worry about the long term, like just consistent use of it. That it's not really studied. Full on marijuana, THC are more studied, but just extracting CBD, it's thought to be safe. So I'm not overly concerned about that. But I wouldn't want to just be on it all the time. So I'm hoping that's not the reason. And then one more sleep related thing. I've been meaning to do this every time. I mean, it's been forever since I've traveled to Europe because of COVID. We were going fairly often before that. And I had heard, I always have jet lag issues when I get over there. And I had heard, not heard, but read that one of the ways to deal with that, especially if you're only if you're traveling east, is start taking melatonin at your target bedtime several days in advance. So I've been meaning to start that a week, but I'm keep being afraid to mess with my sleep schedule that's working so well because melatonin will really make stuff crazy. And then you can have like what seems like a great long sleep and then wake up feeling hungover and terrible, like you didn't sleep, if your cycles get all out of whack. So I'm just scared to mess with it. But I was all excited to like finally for a whole solid week do this plan and see if it actually works. So I still haven't done it. I'm probably gonna do it tonight and the next, and then Saturday we leave. So I'll see how that goes. But apparently the light therapy, Dr. Greger, by the way, has some great stuff on this. If you are interested, look up Greger, what's it called, melatonin or jet lag, and he's got some stuff. And like there are specific periods when you should expose yourself to light once you're in the new destination, and when you absolutely shouldn't expose yourself to light. And it's very science behind it. It's known exactly when. There's a big chart that shows you depending on how many hours away you are, and it just supposedly works much better than what you might get from the melatonin thing. So I'm gonna try that, but we'll see. I just like I said, just been hesitant to mess with something that's working. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear you.
Good.
I feel you.
Good. All right. Well, like I said, Thanksgiving episode tomorrow. My family's gonna have Thanksgiving tomorrow night, mini before we leave. So we're just gonna go ahead and do that. But we've got. So I'll talk about our food and things then. But we've got a bunch of articles about it, some different vegan roast comparisons, some Trader Joe's food, just some random Thanksgiving things that are fun. So that will be tomorrow. Look for that one. So shifting to our plant-based content of the day, Doug, the big news that is over all the sites. This is huge news. My dad sent it to me, but I had seen it 5 places before that. It's just everywhere. Is that Upside Foods, which is the company that I kind of think we profiled them on, was it Monday? Maybe it was Tuesday. We read this lengthy article about inside their thing. And I have to wonder about the timing of that article, if someone knew this was coming.
Well, they had submitted to the FDA, so they must have.
Mm-hmm. We knew they submitted. But I mean, I assume that was a months-long process. So it seems coincidental. It almost makes you think we just keep manifesting the future, but I don't think really that has anything to do with it. But they have been green-lighted by the FDA. They received a what's called a no questions letter, which basically means we have no questions about the safety of this product. It's, I believe, GRAS, generally regarded as safe, is the acronym they use for foods and the ingredients that are in here. I guess if you make your product up of ingredients that are generally regarded as safe, it's pretty easy to get it through. This one, I guess,
something above that is something better than that.
I don't know about that. That's a good
highly
question.
regarded as safe, or
right? Good question. I don't know, because we pointed out like there are questions about the health, right? Because they can give these cells all different types of food as they're growing,
right?
And if you did something that makes the cells multiply like crazy, way beyond what you would expect, I mean, you kind of think that you wouldn't want to be consuming this thing that helps with cell multiplication, right? I know it's not going to translate directly into your body's cells doing the same, but it's not hard to get scared about that. So I don't know. I guess with this kind of stuff, like they obviously don't have any requirement like the pharmaceutical industry does, and even that, who knows? I mean, we the whole last few years have been arguing about that. But like, I guess I'm kind of surprised that there's not like some sort of, with something so new and different, there's not some sort of like 10-year time when we need to say like, okay, no one who's in the test group is like has some horrible cancer rate happening now. But I guess not. I guess that wouldn't be practical to do that. And the company Upside, I guess they had done this sort of, I don't have the exact phrase in front of me, but they had basically partnered with somebody else to sort of create a framework and a structure for this cultivated meat, because it's such a new type of product that they're just trying to help basically build the process for getting this stuff approved. That's not a very good job of summarizing it. It sounds like it would be totally biased if they were involved. But they're kind of creating some new structure, I think, as this is happening. So anyway, what's next is the USDA is the next agency that has to do this, and it sounds to me like once they're through that, and it is thought that won't be a problem, then it is ready. I mean, then it can be served. You've got to imagine the pricing will be astronomical, given that we said this place produces, I think, 50,000 pounds in a year. So that's nothing, right? If that was all there was, then the incredibly scarce, the price would be crazy. And by the way, this is their chicken, not the beef or anything else that they might be making. So that's it. They've got some deal with a 3-star Michelin chef to put it on the menu. Dominique Crenn. That's cool. They're currently valued at $1 billion after a $400 million Series C investment. So pretty big story, and they're calling this a watershed moment. I mean, this is amazing to me that this is happening like
Yeah.
this before our eyes, and it just seems like something that's far in the future, but it's coming.
Yeah. So they're calling it a rigorous evaluation. We're thrilled that the FDA's announcement that after a rigorous evaluation, the FDA accepts Upside's conclusion that our cultivated chicken is safe to eat. This is a big deal. This is a huge deal. Mr. Jeffrey here says that he believes grass is the precursor for FDA approval. The letter is saying that you're good to go, but the labs haven't been done yet. I don't know about that at all, so I can't speak to it. He then goes on to say, if you have grass, you can proceed to retail, but places like Walmart won't carry you unless you have the full approval. Also, most countries won't import without full approval. Makes sense?
Yep. So work remains to be done, but it's happening. It's funny,
Yes.
like as we see these, I've got some other headlines later on that are for just more traditional fake meat things, plant-based meat. It's funny how quickly, now that this week we've been focusing on these, it seems like that's like no big deal anymore. Like it's just like we hear about it, and then it's just like now we just take for granted it. And this with Bianca, one of our often viewer listeners, she put a picture up the other day of some kind of plant-based salmon burger she had, and I jokingly said, "You mean it's not even 3D printed or something? Because it just looked like ground salmon." And like I was like, "Well, I'm used to seeing 3D printed salmon. I want to see the texture and see the real thing." And it was a joke, but like it's kind of real. Like now, like any plant-based meat news that's at a new restaurant or something, if it's not some crazy new technology that makes it look and taste exactly like the real thing, it's like it suddenly just seems like yesterday's news. So I do wonder. I mean, I'm kind of kidding, but it feels like how quickly things are moving that you do wonder with like the Beyond Meat, their valuation plummeting and their their I guess their valuation because their stock price is plummeting and that's what the company is a whole bunch of stocks. I mean, you have to wonder, like, are they prepared for this kind of stuff? Like, what if this just comes and just wipes out all the work that's been done in those plant-based meats? I'm guessing it's not going to because there's going to be an appetite for the stuff that some people do not want to eat animal meat,
Right.
vegans especially. So there will be a market for it, but you just have to wonder if the idea that like that would become what everybody eats by necessity at some point, like I would say that's not true anymore. Like this is far more likely to me once the price is comes down. This is what people are going to eat and just swap the regular meat for, not that.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, like it's really wild. It's really wild that we are at this point where lab grown meat in tanks is a thing that like is real, and not just real, but now they have the green light to sell it and you can go to a restaurant and buy it. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
that is unbelievable. And then, you think about like the articles that you sent us here today. I think they were both from like vegetarian, vegan sources. Obviously this is good news that's way beyond the vegan world, but but the fact that like all of the vegetarian news sources are hailing it as a huge monumental thing
Right.
for the world. I mean, this is like everybody's kind of getting behind this, and we've been talking about it for all week basically. And I don't know. I just think it is really wild. And I understand what you're saying because you're right. Like if this becomes a thing and it becomes cheap enough for people to be able to afford it, just just like they would a regular chicken breast, what like there's not going to be that drive or that motivation to go with the plant-based version, especially if the plant-based version isn't all that healthy. If it is a lot healthier, then they still have that leg to stand on. But if it's just a little bit healthier or maybe not as unhealthy,
Right.
then it's hard to make that decision. Like why wouldn't you just go with the real thing if you ate the meat?
Yep. And they're going to be able to, as we talked about yesterday or 2 days ago, they're going to begin to engineer these things for health. They'll be able to add omega-3s and certain things to different foods. So then it will be competing perhaps with the plant-based versions as far as a health food goes. And by the way, we're talking about this like it's a huge deal because it's in the US, but in Singapore, it's being sold. You can go buy this stuff. I don't know if it's not this brand, but you can buy, cultivated meat. I think chicken is probably the one that's out there now, but certainly others. I don't know about the prices. I'd love to hear what it actually is selling for in a place like that. But yeah, it's crazy. It's very easy. It's something like you just start talking about it for a week, like we have, and suddenly it just, to me, I know some people are saying like the whole health experience tastes as too sci-fi for me, but more power to everyone who eats it. And I get some people just aren't going to want to eat animal meat. They
Yeah.
just sworn that off so long ago that they're just not interested. Um, but it's just funny to me. Like I can totally imagine this being on a restaurant menu, and we saw that it's going to happen at this one restaurant. They've got a 3-star Michelin chef, no less. You can imagine it being there. You can imagine someone going there, not going in planning to have any sort of strange food experience, but they see this and they say, I would give that a try. Like if it's actually animal meat, I mean, it is animal meat. It's just not from an animal that ever felt anything or any right. It's the muscle, but there was no animal there. And if it tastes the same, there's people are going to be in. You could see it becoming a trendy, expensive, maybe even a status symbol, which we'll get to later. Another thing about status and countries developing and things like that, and the taste for meat. But you can imagine people doing this because it's cool and feels good. Like it feels good to know that you're doing something that's cutting edge and sustainable and all these things. So I don't know. And we saw some survey data yesterday that people, from what we saw, are more willing to eat this than they are to eat the plant-based meat, because this somehow seems in some way more natural than, Frankenfoods, where you're taking proteins and even from plants and then doing all this technology on them, rather than this, which, as high-tech sci-fi as this seems, in some way it's almost more, has a more natural thing to it, right? You're growing animal cells just like animal cells grow in animals, instead of taking something, 3D printing something, restructuring proteins, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're right. And plant-based Lucy asks, why would non-vegans be interested in this? And it's a good question, especially if you haven't been to to all the lives this week, or you haven't listened to those episodes. Because you're like, why would people be interested? And I mean, the truth is, I mean, it's going to totally revolutionize. It has the potential to totally revolutionize the food system, in that we can create meat that is sustainable, that is much better for the environment, that doesn't kill a bunch of animals, that doesn't have all the waste byproducts from animals, so it's not hurting the populations that live around those factory farms. It's better for the workers that aren't being exposed to all of these. It will cut down on the disease that's transmitted through different factory farm animals. I mean, it's kind of, the benefits are endless. The big issue is still that it's meat, right? And there's health problems that are associated with that.
Right. That's true. Right. And so much of the plant-based movement have been about how unhealthy meat is and how healthy eating a plant-based diet is. So, that gets lost. But to me, who cares, right? It's not like we're not talking about vegans eating it. We're talking about non-vegans eating it. People who swapping regular meat for this, and they may be able to make this healthier than that. Who knows? Dale Stevens says, dumb question. I assume they can't remove the hormones from the lab version. I actually don't know anything about that. I know chickens, like a lot of chickens in the US are advertised as hormone free, but all chicken, I think, is hormone free as far as added hormones free. You're not allowed to do that. I know things, I mean, I don't know much about this, so I don't have a straight answer to this question. I know like a dairy cow, I read the other day, is pregnant basically for her entire life. There's very little periods when a dairy cow is not pregnant, and that's so that she can produce, tons of milk. I think one produced 78,000 pounds of milk in either a year or her lifetime. Just a horrible thing. But I think that messes with hormones as well. Obviously, it creates a lot of hormones. So then if that cow is later slaughtered, but I don't know about non-dairy cows, but so I have no idea. My guess is that there are none of these excess hormones that are unnatural. None of that has to be present in this. I would think whatever hormones sort of naturally occur, they're there. But who knows? If you just have cells and you don't have a brain that would, or the other means of producing hormones, maybe that doesn't happen at all. I know nothing about this, so I can't really pretend like I do. But I would guess it's not a huge issue.
Yeah. One more thing before we move on to the next article. Jody Shuck asks, says it's hard to imagine people who deny science and climate change getting behind this, but she hopes so. And I agree. Like, it's hard to imagine those people going out and seeking it. What I think is going to happen, my prediction, you heard it here first, but I think we've actually both said it many times, is that once the price comes down, they're going to start subbing this into everything. So when you go to McDonald's and you buy a burger, it's going to be this. It's not going to be from a cow. So people maybe aren't going out and seeking it, especially in these early phases, but it's just going to become so prevalent because it's going to be cheaper. It's going to be better. It's going to be easier for the companies that there's no way around it.
Yes. So the next article that I wanted us to cover and this is this new show structure where we're trying to discuss some topics, and then later we'll hit the headline piece where we just kind of move quickly. The other big discussion piece I had is from greenqueen, .com.hk. I don't know what the HK is for, but
Hong Kong?
the headline is, what's that?
Is it
You got
Hong
an idea,
Kong?
Doug?
Hong Kong, maybe?
I don't know. Maybe that's a Hong Kong, the way you get a Hong Kong domain, which obviously doesn't mean that the site is there, just that the domain name is. I have no idea. But the headline is, with 8 billion people to feed, does alt protein need a rebrand? Which is fine, interesting enough question. The interesting point, though, of this article to me, this is by a lady named Sonali Figueres, and she's been in this alt meat industry for 5 or 6 years now, and has some really good perspectives. I don't think the interesting part of this article is the naming problem of alternative protein. The interesting point to me is her points about the population growth. So I think, as a lot of people know, this week we passed the 8 billion mark of population on the planet, not in any true sense, but as far as the models say, because we can't measure the population day to day or even really year to year in any truly reliable way. But the models, it's our best estimate of what the population is. And at this point, the ones that are trusted cross that 8 billion mark. So that's a lot of people. It's not that different from 7.9 billion, but it's a whole lot of people, and it's just getting more and more. The point she makes, though, is this: Americans consume the most beef per capita compared to any other nationality, approximately 25.6 kilograms per person. So that's something like 60 pounds per year, maybe 65. By comparison, the average Chinese citizen consumes 5.8 kilograms, and the average Indian eats 5.5 kilograms per year. So those are much, much lower numbers, but those are the two most populous countries in the world. And in those both nations, as she says here, there are still hundreds of millions of people that still need to be lifted out of poverty. When those folks attain a middle-class life that matches that of the average American, they will want animal protein in similar quantities as the average American, as these extrapolated consumption curves illustrate. And the reasons for that are, she gives 4. One, that beef throughout history has been seen as a kind of a status food item. It was scarce. It was the most nutritious food in terms of calories per gram, and it was expensive. And she says, to be fair, although vegans may not agree, it's delicious. So as far as status goes, eating beef is a mark. And as countries become, their lifestyles become middle class, they're going to want that. And so her point, though, is that even if we had 2 planets, we could not produce enough beef for that many people because of the food that they have to eat, right? That takes up tons of land as well. And she said some estimates say up to 5 planets. We would need 5 planets worth of what we have to produce this. So this is not a climate change. Someone just talked about, denying science and believing climate change. Even if you don't believe that at all, the idea that we don't have enough room to make that much beef is a real one. And if those people want that, I don't mean those people in some mean way. I mean, if that many more people want beef and we don't have it, then the price goes up, right? That supply and demand happens because we can't make that much beef. So then the price becomes crazily expensive, so that for a lot of people, it is no longer an option. And so what we need is an alternative. And that's where, whatever the protein of the future is, whether it's this cultivated stuff or whether it's some plant-based version, that's where this alt protein is going to, basically not be an alternative. It's going to be what you get when you want to eat beef. And I don't know if this at some, lesser extent applies to other meats. But just strictly speaking, in terms of beef, her argument is there's not enough. There's just not, like, the alternatives are going to be it because there's not another possibility at some point. So
Right.
that's how people who, don't care about climate change or don't believe it or whatever, that's how, why they will want to have this, because it's going to become affordable compared to this extremely scarce resource, which will be, animal, traditionally farmed beef, or maybe other animals.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting and kind of scary to think about as well. We keep talking about how more people are going vegan and how more people are choosing or open to plant-based proteins over animal proteins. But the truth is, the population is growing, and as you say, like, that is looking at Americans, that is looking at people who fit a certain economic structure. And when you start thinking about the whole world, maybe decrease poverty and increased access to food around the world, that there's going to be more and more meat consumed unless there is a viable alternative.
Yeah, and so I did wonder, as I was thinking about this, like, it is based on the assumption that as people become, move into middle class from lower class, and maybe it's not an individual person changing, but as a population transforms from lower class to or impoverished to middle class, like the assumption here is that they will want meat because that's what people have always done and that's what Americans do. I did wonder, like, is it possible that there will be a more enlightened person, perhaps, because of all this stuff that is dominating at least our conversations now? Certainly not everybody's yet, but like, is it possible that people of the future may not want meat like that? Like, they may understand that it's not the healthiest choice compared to others, especially now that the information spreads much more than it did for the past 100,000 years. We can understand what foods are healthy for us and which aren't. And red meat is one of the ones that's labeled as a likely carcinogen, I believe, by the World Health Organization. So, like, it's possible that people won't want meat the way that the article author is assuming they will. I tend to think she's probably right, but I had to ask that question.
It's possible for sure. I mean, I don't know, but I think in cultures around the world and in cultures that places I've been where poverty is much more a part of everyday life than what I experience here. Meat is still very much considered a delicacy, and something that you have on Sundays or celebrations or whatever, or at least in larger quantities than maybe day to day. And I don't know that I think that that's just kind of ingrained in a lot of cultures around the world. Whether so as access to that becomes more available, then I think people are going to choose it.
Right. Right. Yeah, you would think so, at least for a while. And then, like you said, it's ingrained in cultures. Doesn't mean it can't change, because it's not like it's ingrained necessarily in our DNA, although people would argue that it isn't. I mean, my argument is that we're omnivores and that we can kind of survive on a lot of different diets. So I don't know if it's ingrained in our DNA that we want to crave, or that we will crave meat. And so I guess I think it is changeable. It is changeable over the long term, that people could maybe not be that interested. But you'd think this is something that's in the next 20, 30 years is going to be, these forces are going to be shaping the world, and the technology is going to be keeping up. So I don't know. I'm thinking that basically the hunger for the beef will be there still in the time that these countries become significant players as far as these massive populations, and the technology is going to be there to feed them. So perhaps the beef obsession will continue, but it will continue with this form that is more sustainable, whatever it is.
So do you think, before we move on, do you think that alt meat has a naming problem? I
mean, that was the point of the article, and like I said, not the part that I really focused on. At the bottom, she does kind of make that point, and she says, instead of saying to your average consumer, "Hey, I'm here to replace your bad for the planet meat with this imitation alternative," we could try, "Hey, you're going to run out of that meat you love, and holy cow, I've got a solution for you." I don't really see how that's much of a rebrand. I don't. There's no suggestion given here really for what we're going to call it instead, or what the message is instead of that. So that part didn't do much for me. But I do like the idea, telling people you need to do this because it's good for the climate, or good for the environment, or good for animals. Like, that's one thing. Instead, the one that says you can't have meat unless you're willing to pay exorbitant amounts for it, far, far more than your other food costs, because it's just not possible to make that much. In that case, let's start calling this cheap meat or something like that, or budget meat, or meat you can actually afford. And then I don't think we need to rebrand. We'll just the price will be the rebranding.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think that's right. I also never hear anybody call it alternative.
No,
meat.
Only these industry journals and things call it meat.
Yeah. And, I mean, people call it fake meat. I mean, we call it fake meat sometimes.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's really I don't know that that's the problem. That the name is the problem.
I mean, it's certainly part of the problem of the much smaller problem of, like, why is Beyond Meat tanking right now? Right. I think in there, we could do a better job of marketing this stuff. I do believe that. But I don't think long term, though, how it's marketed matters. Those big factors, like economic ones, are going to be what matters. All right.
So shifting says that in time we'll just call it meat, or maybe something like cruelty-free meat or something like that. Which I think
so, because it is meat, right? Especially if we're talking about the cultivated stuff. Yeah, I mean, it is the same thing. It just didn't involve hurting an animal. So wonderful. Donna on Facebook says, "Did you hear all about the vegan Burger King in Portugal?" Donna, by the way, is one of the ones who was involved with a lot of these vegan tours. Donna, if you want to tell me the name, I can shout you out. Green something tours, but it's what I did. I went to Miyoko, or with Miyoko, before Miyoko was Miyoko. She was doing her thing, but not quite so big yet. We went to Italy and like co-hosted a vegan trip there. That was awesome. and Donna was a big part of making that happen. So anyway, Donna's focused on the vegan options abroad, and she said, "Did you hear about the vegan Burger King in Portugal?" And yes, we did. We talked about it just the other day, how they're doing a vegan pop-up. Apparently, there are a lot of these pop-ups, and the article today mentions it. The article, this is also from Green Queen. The article there is that Germany now has 1,600 stores carrying Beyond Meat. But then later on, they go on to talk more about Germany. And aside from that interesting news, that seems like a lot of German supermarkets carrying Beyond Meat, considering there are also other meat brands or alt meat brands that are in Germany. I guess in Cologne, they had a vegan pop-up for a while. And I read earlier that there was one in Madrid that still used regular mayonnaise, not plant-based. So that's why this Iberian Peninsula one, or this one in Portugal, is the first fully vegan pop-up Burger King on the Iberian Peninsula. But apparently Germany, who knew, is I guess only second only to Romania in terms of reducing meat consumption. And
Wow.
1 out of half of Germans now eat less animal meat than they did 5 years ago. 1 in 5 now consume plant-based meat at least once a week. So that's pretty amazing, considering that just the stereotype of Germany as this sausage-loving country. It's surprising.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I will be going to Germany, as I've said many times, in 2 days, leaving there to go with my son. I happened to Google today, Doug, the BurgerKing.de menu to see what I could expect to get. Because I just realized that once I get there, how am I going to know if this long chicken sandwich, which I can supposedly now get, is fully vegan or what? Like, I'm not going to be able to figure that out on the spot. I mean, my German is woeful. So I'm not going to know.
Everyone in Germany speaks English, so I think
is that
I mean,
true?
not everybody, but it is impressive how good English is.
Okay. Well, someone had told me that, but I later found out they had only been to the airport in Germany. So I was like, well, that's a little different. But that's actually good to know, because I've tried to learn German. It is way harder than the Romance languages. Despite its sort of similarities to English, it just, like English, I think, doesn't follow a lot of the nice rules that those Romance languages do. So it's been a slow process. But I found on the menu, listen what they have on their menu. There's you can click on the plant-based section of the menu. There is the cheddar cheese lover plant-based, the cheddar cheese lover plant-based double, plant-based long chicken, plant-based Big King XXL, plant-based Whopper, plant-based extra long chili cheese. I don't know what that is. It looks like a burger, but it's on a sub bun and it has cheese on it and spicy cheese, I think. Plant-based Whopper Jr., plant-based Big King, plant-based hamburger, plant-based cheeseburger, plant-based double cheeseburger, plant-based chili cheeseburger, plant-based double chili cheeseburger, plant-based nugget burger, plant-based nuggets, Veggie King, King Jr. meal, plant-based nuggets, and then the good old salads. Have it your way. So that's amazing. And I think that's, from what I can tell, that's at all Burger Kings. So like I said, I will be doing that. That will be my first stop when we leave the airport, probably, to get myself a long chicken sandwich. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to bringing back Kit Kat bars, assuming I can find vegan Kit Kats there. That is one of my missions that my daughter has sent me on.
Excellent. Can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah, and I will try my best to publish things I find on post them to our account, Plant-Based Morning Show. So anyway, that's that quick headline. Juicy Marbles, Doug, is I've heard of Juicy Marbles before, but they now have this whole cut tenderloin thing. The Beats article, their headline is, "This whole cut vegan tenderloin might just replace steak." Not sure I can agree with that, given what we've been saying about this cultivated meat. But this is a 2-pound slab of plant-based meat, and it appears to me that they're branded. You know how remember Stone Arrogant Bastard, that beer, Doug?
Oh yeah.
And the whole, if you read the bottle, it was all this you're not tough enough to drink this beer. You probably won't like it. It's not for you. It seems like their branding with this Juicy Marbles thing is how big and rude it is. Whole cut loin, tender plant-based muscle, they're calling it. It's just a weird branding. And who's going to buy a 2-pound thing? I mean, I guess I know who will. People who are really into cooking and they're vegans and they want to, be able to do what they hope here, which is a quote from the Juicy Marbles is, "With nearly 2 pounds of 100% plant-based meat, this cut enables the novice cook to the experienced chef the ability to create steaks, broths, bowls, sandwiches, roasts, or Wellingtons." Right, so someone's going to create broth out of this plant-based meat, I guess, and then go on and use it for something else, or cut slabs of it and use. I mean, it sounds like restaurants would use this more than someone at home.
Yeah.
but I think it's for the home chef. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing. As much as I get excited to try these things, it's not. I don't find myself thinking like if I saw that I must get it because I wouldn't really know what to do with it. Like I don't cook enough
Yeah.
meats
Yeah.
and things
Totally.
like that I don't know what you do with a big thing like that.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Don't know what to think about this.
It maybe for a holiday or something. I could
Be good
picture
for
doing.
that.
Hmm.
But then
Yeah.
what
I
do
don't, I
you
don't know.
do? I guess you look up a recipe and hope that it works. Or you find a meat
Right.
recipe and hope that you
Right.
can still
Right.
just roast it or marinate it or whatever the same way and then slice it off at the table.
Uh-huh.
A little bit of a risk the first time you're doing it if you have people over. But I don't know. It's cool. Cool it's happening. Like I said, starting to get excited about this now that we have a science fiction world happening and we can grow chicken meat in labs. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm shifting. Consumers are shifting.
They are. Pretty
I don't
soon
know.
we're gonna
Yeah.
be the cultivated meat morning show.
Yeah, right.
Just
All right,
kidding.
so that's that one. And finally, last one of the day. Also from Green Queen. I've been excited to have found Green Queen and Veg Economist, which I found them both before, but finally started
Uh-huh.
paying more attention. They both have good stuff. BioFluff closes a $500,000 pre-seed funding round for plant-based fur, leading me to ask: was that a do people still have fur anyway? And like, I thought there already was fake fur. Isn't faux mink and faux things like it's been around forever?
It has been around forever. This one feels a little different though, apparently. Or
Right. I couldn't figure out why. I
I
think
couldn't either. I couldn't figure out if they were something like the cultivated meat, if they
well,
were
there is that.
cultivating fur.
That's happening,
Uh,
but that's not the story. Uh, LVMH, I guess, is a fashion brand,
uh-huh.
and somehow they're involved with this biofluff company. I couldn't really figure that out. But it sounds like they're using basically this is like the plant-based meats version of fur,
Right.
where the Beyond Meat version, where they're using high-tech stuff from plant products to make this synthetic fur, uh, and it's going to be better than anything before. But earlier this year, this company LVMH said they were working to develop lab-grown fur, and they're one of the few luxury labels that do not currently ban animal fur, so they still are using it. Again, I don't really know what that brand is. It's La Maison de. No, that's a different thing. Sorry. Anyway, so I don't know that much about this. Like I said, I thought we've had faux fur forever, and I didn't realize there was a problem with it. I was just thought, well, why don't people get that unless it's like a status thing and they just want the animal? So, if I'm correct, which I'm sure I'm not because I don't know anything about this world, uh, that status thing's still going to be the problem, right? Some jerk is going to say, well, I want to wear a true fox's fur, and I don't want, even if it's identical that you grew in a lab, I don't want it. I want to wear the real thing,
Yeah,
right?
sure. Of course.
So I
Yeah.
don't see what this does. I'm not trying to say it's a bad idea because like I said, I know nothing about this, so I just don't know. But I'm curious if anyone does have opinions about this. I'd love to know. I mean, or really has facts about this that I don't understand. Steven
Well,
says,
so
"Is
what
anyone
if
still wearing fur, real or fake?" I don't know. I don't know anything about what people wear. I don't leave my house.
what is like wool? Is that considered fur?
I mean, it's not vegan. I don't know if you call it fur or not.
Or
I
like
don't think so.
alpaca?
No, because I think furs are like when you have to skin the animal to get
Oh,
it.
so it has the whole skin on there, not just the hairs or whatever.
I think. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I always think of that as a very different class than this because I mean, although I don't think a sheep's life that is used for wool is very nice. Maybe there are certain sort of idyllic scenarios where they do it in an old fashioned way. But I think the modern wool industry is just as bad as everything else.
Right, right.
Even if they don't kill them.
Wool is
So
not fur. Which
not
right,
okay.
wool is not fur. But I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, this is, I guess, different subject. But if there was like improved synthetic versions of like alpaca, I don't know, whatever. I don't know what you call it, fabric
Yeah,
or wool.
that'd be a good
Like
practical thing, right?
that'd be a good. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But that's not what's happening here. I don't think.
No, I think this is pure fashion and hoping to replace that. So hopefully it works. I mean, it'd be great if people would go for that instead. But I just don't know. I do think that somehow in my very limited experience, I have felt real fur and faux fur coats and things, and I always could tell the difference
Yeah.
from
Right.
the real one.
Mhm.
It's just softer and different. So hopefully that problem, I would think that would have been solved a long time ago. But maybe that's what they're going to do. Short of the whole cultivated thing. Apparently, the leather is much more interesting to me. The plant-based leathers that is happening because cars do it. I think is Tesla all whatever pleather or vegan leather,
I
whatever.
don't want
Now
to say for sure, but that sounds
I
right.
think they are. But apparently there's a company, Stubler. I think it's a co-founder. Oh, it's also part of BioFluff. They're developing mycelium-based leather. Mycelium is the mushroom protein that things like corn are made from. Corn, the plant-based meat, and that's subject of a lot of new technology stuff in plant-based meats is using the mushroom protein and the precision fermentation with that and all these kinds of things. So cool that's happening. But I think leather probably has many more like huge commercial applications than fur, and so that's to me the more interesting application of this technology is to make plant-based leather, so we can just stop having that.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. There's a lot of chatter here about wool, and wool is wool. Fur has hide. Animals don't need to die for wool, obviously.
Right. Okay.
And then a question: what do vegans wear to stay warm if not for wool? I think nowadays there's plenty of synthetic fibers that.
Yeah, I don't know the answer as to what. I just know when you go to like a Gap or Banana Republic or whatever or wherever shop, you can put something on and look at the tag and it'll say if it's wool. And a lot of times I don't know anything about the stuff, but I can't tell the difference between the stuff that is synthetic and wool. And so you just don't buy the wool ones. But it seems just as warm and just as good to me. And Erin, my wife, she does a lot of knitting. She makes little stuffed animal presents and things. She easily goes and gets vegan wool from different places. It's more expensive, but you can get it, and it's really good.
Yeah.
So there you are.
There you are. Another good show, Matt. Well prepared, well prepped.
I'm happy with this format. I got it. Somebody was giving me props for prep, and I kind of I barely saw it. That happens sometimes with these comments, and we can't read them later. But I must find. I can't close this out without finding a compliment of me.
It was Dale Stevens. You said he was giving you a hard time. She. Sorry, I keep doing that.
That's all right. Well, I assume she. Okay, what'd you say? Write that comment again. Write that compliment again.
Just that you're doing a good job with the prep, and it shows.
Okay, thanks.
And
maybe she felt bad because she had guessed that I did. Oh yeah, okay, good.
No, I'm just kidding.
There it is. Okay, yeah, I think she was guessing 0 earlier. Good. No, I wasn't too offended. Don't worry about that, Dale. All right. Well, I think that's all. That was good. Like I said, Thanksgiving episode tomorrow. Like I also said, follow us, Plant Based Morning Show on Instagram or the No Meat Athlete official account and the No Meat Athlete official account. Really, I'm Real Matt Frazier. Doug is It's Doug Hay. You can follow us as well. And tomorrow's Thanksgiving episode, but let's get the podcast. It's Plant Based Morning Show podcast. I refresh those stats obsessively, Doug, every day. So I want to see those numbers go up. People, please go subscribe to the podcast, download all the episodes you can, and you'll make me happy. And then one day we'll start getting paid to read fake articles about PR stunts in museums, like Plant Based News gets paid.
Oh yeah, there you go. One day, maybe.
Nice.
Right. I don't want to say this wrong, but I'm trying to pull the stats back up. But I think that so far this week we've had more unique listeners than any other week.
Okay.
While our total downloads, I don't know. So we're growing, and it's awesome. And I love seeing. I said earlier about I love you guys chatting with each other. I love even more, or maybe the equal amount. I love seeing all the people who come in and say this is my first live show. So it's fun. It's fun to be able to connect people with the podcast and also live. And really exciting stuff.
Definitely. All right. Well, then we'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
Have a good one.
Later.